Good evening. I'm Forget About It here with my co-host DJ King Majesty.
Yes,
I want to
sir.
welcome y'all to Election Night 2024. The day we have all been waiting for is finally here. It feels like the Super Bowl. It's crazy, all the tension in the air. Everybody waiting to see exactly what's going to happen with this election. I hope everybody who can got out there and voted today and let your voice be heard, regardless of whatever candidate you guys selected or went with. Just hope you got out there and exercise your constitutional right and got your.
Doing great, man. Excited. Want to see how this thing is gonna unfold. Definitely super excited for my cousin Lachey Sharp running for 79th district. So I'm just excited, man. I want to see what's gonna happen, just like everyone else.
No doubt, no doubt. Most definitely, most definitely. And we're hoping we can get her on in a little bit. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get her on as well as a couple other guests that we have. Again, it's a crazy night for a lot of folks. Some of the guests we wanted to get on are actually they're actually campaigning, so they're out at their respective watch parties or whatever. So we're hoping to be able to grab them for at least a couple of minutes if we can grab them
Right.
here in a bit. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and jump into it. Some of the early returns that are coming in, Trump right now is ahead about 105 electoral counts to about 25 for Kamala Harris. It's still early on, so everybody don't pass like a big gap, but it's still very early in the process. Right now, Trump has a slight lead in Georgia, has a slight lead in Virginia, very narrow lead in Virginia, actually by maybe about zero point 0.5 percentage points. But Kamala has a really big lead so far in Pennsylvania and in Michigan as well. So again, those are some of the battleground states that we're looking at. And so again, fingers crossed, we'll see how everything comes out as the night progresses. Again, at this point, all of the polling places on the East Coast have closed. And as we move through the show tonight, those in the Midwest will also begin to close. And by the time we finish the show, rather get ready to wrap up, those on the West Coast will be closing as well. So again, I don't know who everybody out there is voting for, but I do hope that again, it's a clean election, as we sure will be. And again, hope everybody got out there and got their vote on and whatnot. But it's going to be an exciting night, nonetheless. So DJ, what's the temperature like out there in Cali as far as what was it like getting out there at the polling places today?
Man, it's everyone's excited, brother. Everyone's excited. It kind of depends on the part of town you go to. Uh, one part of town looks one way, the another part of town looks another way. Kind of just like how the country looks, to keep it real.
Yeah, it's crazy too because when I went, because we go to the same spot around the corner from where I live, the same church we go every year. We usually only have about minute. We usually in and out within 5 to 10 minutes. Go in and we
Right,
pretty quick. Even same thing was this morning. I think we might have been the only people in there for the most part. There was somebody else coming out, but again, it was just very quick. And where I live is kind of out in the sticks a bit, so it's kind of surprising to see the updates a little while ago. She was up 75% to about 25 to about
right.
20% in my county. So that was surprising because again, I live out in the sticks, and usually the Republicans usually kind of get higher numbers out in the sticks a little bit. So that was a good thing. It's going to be interesting, man, because they
Yeah,
said Georgia
I've
here's
more than
tough.
ever.
Yeah,
More than
it's
ever, I'm
it's
I'm hearing a lot of Republicans saying that they're voting for Kamala. I never heard that before.
Yeah, a lot of folks, man, from what I'm seeing, are they're tired of tired of the madness, tired of just the negativity. You know what I'm saying? The person on the other side is constantly trying to pit folks against each other and
Right,
just constantly demeaning so on and so forth. So people are tired of that. Even Republicans are tired of it. So they're hoping, at least from the reports that I've seen, is that again they're hoping that we can lose this time and kind of put that phase behind us as a country and kind of move forward and get back to, again, there are always going to be Democrats and Republicans butting heads,
right,
but it'll be some decorum about it, a little class about it, not this name calling and just the crap that's been going on, man, because it's been straight, to use a word that's been popular over the last couple of weeks, it's been garbage. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So,
yeah.
real
I mean,
talk.
it doesn't even seem it's an embarrassment. It really damages the prestige of the country. You know how usually the U.S. seems like the powerhouse of the world, but Lately, hasn't seemed that way. We're kind of the
It,
clowns of the world.
it has been, it has been straight buffoonery. You know what I mean? It's just been one of those times where, again, like you said, people around the world are laughing at us. I have some friends overseas, and they literally laugh at our politics the last couple of few years.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
it's
saying? It just,
laughable.
yeah, it's just like, come on, man. They laughed at us to begin with when he the first time he ran and he actually won. They were like, "Wow, that's your
I mean,
president."
it's almost like a reality show, man.
That's basically what it is, and that's what he treats it like. It's not supposed to be entertainment. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's just it's not. It's not a joke whatsoever. But right now, again, it's for a late update, a current update rather. Trump up 154 to 27 electoral votes. But again, it's still early in the process, so we'll still see what happens. He has a slight lead in Virginia, but we'll see how that goes. But real quick, we're going to step away real quick to pay some bills with one of our sponsors, Ray Libra Tequila, or Tequila rather. So, all right, all right, all right. Welcome back. Welcome back. So with that, I want to kind of get into, what are your thoughts on this last week as far as the messaging from both campaigns? Because it's been interesting. Even going back, let's start back a week and a half ago at Madison Square Garden, where Trump had that rally and kind of bring it forward. What have been your thoughts on, let's say, Kamala's messaging? What are your thoughts on what she's been putting out there, and how effective do you think it's going to be as far as just closing that deal and getting folks to the polls?
I was happy for her because it seemed like she turned the corner a little bit instead of them just going back and forth at each other. It seems like she started talking about policies and like what she's actually looking to do and having everyone together, but on the other end, it was just more of the same. It actually kind of worse, at his rally and just some of the things that were said. We expect them to say anything at this point, but still, even expecting them to say anything, they still find a way to just go over the top where you're like, wow. I mean, he said something about Liz Cheney and pointing 9 barrels at her. I'm like, what? Like, how
Right,
can you
right.
say that?
And that's coming from somebody who actually had two assassination attempts on him. So it's like, come on,
That's
man. You would
that
think that
is
that would wake him up a little bit, but it seemed like it did for like about a day. And then after that, he went back to the old Trump and then doubled down on that too.
that's just mind blowing to be running for president, talking about shooting at a lady. That's
Yeah,
that's mind blowing.
it's not. And what's crazy is, again, when you watch, these different networks or whatever, and you see the different pundits on there talking and watching them trying to explain and justify his speech is mind boggling because it's like, how can you justify it? And the way they justify it is, well, that's just him.
Right.
I'm like, so that makes it okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's crazy like that. For you to get that numb to just the craziness that comes out of his mouth, and then be able to justify it and just say, well, okay, that's just him. If anybody else said it, it would be all hell breaking loose. You know what I'm
But it's
saying?
been
But
it's been it's been like that ever since he started. You
it
know,
has been.
where they just it seems like whatever side you're on, you're just stuck to that side, and no matter what is said, it's just I'm going for my side, and that's what one of the biggest problems is that we should be going for what we feel like is right versus I'm on this side and that's where I'm staying no matter what. That's how it
His
feels to me.
Yeah, historically, it's supposed to be country over party. You know what I'm saying? The party comes second, the country comes first. But over these last couple few years, it's been more or less it's all about party. And like I said before, I think on the last episode was the people that are supporting him the hardest, outside of just the standard voter, those that are in either those that are in office already or those seeking office. And the only reason they're supporting him for the most part and doing the bootlicking is because of fear. They know that if they go against him or speak against him in any form or fashion, he's going to bite their head off. That's
Right.
going to ruin. And at that point, career is done. Any politician that is going against Donald Trump in any form or fashion, as far as Republicans, they're not there anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or they went back later, kissed the ring, and everything is okay now.
Right.
Just like his running mate. How you gonna call the man in America 4 years ago? Now all of a sudden that's your best buddy, and you running with them. It's crazy.
It's like a
It's crazy.
reality show, man. It's unbelievable. How do you have someone who said just very bad things about you, and now he's your running mate? That how does where they do that at?
Just like with Ted Cruz, the senator down in Texas. He talked about that man's father. He talked about the man's wife. Talked about him. He had a whole nickname for him, Lion Ted Cruz. And now he's one of his biggest supporters. If you go back and look at old footage from right after January 6th, you had half the Republican Party saying that it was Donald Trump's fault, that he was responsible for it. And then let's say about a month or two later, it was like, well, I really didn't mean that. It was crazy. I'm like, come on now.
I
It was
mean,
it makes no sense. Make it make sense.
it's really mind-boggling, to have a person who has court cases and just has sound bites and just so terrible, grabbing women, and I mean, it's unheard of. I don't. The only thing I can go back to is it just feels racist. But wow, is it that bad to have millions of people that will back someone doing that? Because I get tired of going back and forth with it, but if we're just gonna be honest, and say like Obama for example, if he has said the things that Trump is saying, it's just without a doubt, we're not even having that conversation. He's out of there.
No
So
doubt. No doubt.
so it's
You know,
discouraging that he can say this stuff and still, be in the race.
But he does honestly what a lot of authoritarians have done historically around the world, which is he feeds on people's fears and anger. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because if you watch him speak, listen to him speak, and you watch a lot of his rallies, all he's doing is feeding on people's fears and anger. It's not. That's why they try to make fun of Kamala when she's talking about joy and hope and
Right.
things like that, because if he went that route, he couldn't harness those people like he wants to. But he knows that people are out there hurt, so he's going to seize on that emotion. He's going to
Right.
basically just hit it and hit it and hit it until he gets everybody so riled up to where they're like, "Man, he is that person. He understands me," type of situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's crazy that people fall into that. You know what I'm saying? They allow themselves to get caught up in that emotion, realizing that honestly, at the end of the day, he's just a man. Two, he's never giving you any detail as to how he's going to do what he's telling you he's going to do. It's constantly, we're going to be the greatest, we're going to be the best, we're going to do this and do that, but no pathway on how we're going to get there.
Yeah, it's like he's just trying to wing it on the fly. Doesn't have anything going. I mean, he's not a dummy, obviously. He knows how to uh, captivate a lot of people, but it seems like he doesn't even have a strategy or a plan. It seems like he's just going off the top of the head.
No, he's the
That's
kind of
how
he's the
that's
type
how it comes across.
he's the kind of person. At least he strikes me as the type of person that has to be the smartest person in the room. And any successful CEO in the world, just about really, really real CEOs would tell you that they surround themselves with smart people. And they hope that those people that they surround themselves with are smarter than them. They're there to facilitate that intellect and make sure things get done a certain way. But they want people on their teams to be the best at what they do, respectively. You
And even
know,
some of the people around him, they're trying to get him to tone it down a little bit, but he's still, he's like, I'm the boss, so I'm just gonna do it anyway.
yeah, like I said a couple episodes ago, it's a matter of anytime you got to tell somebody again. When you hear these commentators talking about, well, we're trying to get him to put his cell phone down. We're trying to get him to stay on message and focus. I'm like, what does he have? ADD? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, he sounds like a 10-year-old, man. It's crazy. And again, I think at the end of the day, too many people are putting country before, I mean, party before country, and it's all about their team winning at all costs, regardless of how they get there. It's all
Another
about winning.
thing that it seems to me, who am I? But it seems to me a lot of a lot of males they're just against women, man. You can just tell by how they're talking, because they're not going into the policies or anything like that. They're just straight speaking down on women, like we can't have a woman in there, and like as long as she's able to do the job, hey, it's one or the other. So which
Right.
one's better? Um, I mean, it's just obvious that she's more qualified by a long shot.
Right. And to be honest with you, I would say this: when she tried to run back in, I think it was 2019. Um, I wasn't a big fan. I wasn't impressed. I ended up voting for Joe Biden at that point. But she's actually really shown me something this time around. Um, she stepped out of she stepped into it basically at this point. She
Right.
stepped into her next iteration, I guess you could say, for lack of a better phrase, and just really stepped up to the plate. And to me, she is by far the best candidate. Going against what she's going against, that's not saying a whole heck of a lot. But going against anybody, I would say that she would still be above and beyond, and she would still get my vote regardless. Um,
Right.
so she's definitely shown me a lot on this go around. So
And it's hard anytime there's a big something that's a big deal, and you're changing into a place that has never been done before. It's always going to be, a uphill battle. Just
right,
just like when Obama won, I honestly thought I would never see that.
man,
But the timing of it was needed. And here we are
definitely.
again. Here we are again. He needed even more.
Yeah, when you think about it, we're going back to Obama. If you think about it, I go back. I watch a lot of old shows. I still watch Sanford and Son. I still watch the Jeffersons. And when you think about it, when you watch those shows and you hear them make these different jokes and things of that nature. At that time, you never would have thought that it was even possible, remotely possible, within our lifetime to see a black president. You
I
know what I'm
was so
saying?
shocked.
Yeah, it was just it was. I still can't believe it sometimes that we actually
I
had a
can
black
remember
president.
I can remember in elementary school, and I was just like, there'll never be a black president. That's just how, I mean, if you see nothing but white men in there, you think that, and it's called the White House. So
Right.
to me as a kid, I'm like, okay, well, there's the White House and there's white men. It's made for them,
And
you
the
know?
crazy part about it, and the crazy part about what you just said is even as a kid, it never even crossed my mind that we would have a black president. It's like that wasn't something that,
No.
it wasn't like, okay, we're never gonna see a black president. I just never crossed my mind. The president is a white dude. It's always been a white dude. It's something that
It's
wasn't even on my
it's
mind.
it's so deep engraved that here we are after the fact, and we're still shocked.
Yeah, exactly. And now here we are at the precipice potentially of having the first female president and also the first female black president. That would be tremendous. You know what I'm saying? That would be just tremendous. And again, just not even just because a lot of folks say, "Oh, you're just voting for her because she's black." No, I'm voting for her because she's a better candidate. I tell everybody in the world that again, I voted for George W. Bush twice, so I can give two craps about party. It's about who I
Right,
feel is the best person to lead a country at that particular time. And at that particular time, I didn't feel John Kerry, and I didn't feel I think it was at the time it was John Kerry. I think Al Gore. I didn't feel him when he
right.
was running. So I didn't think either of them were good leaders or would have been good leaders for us, regardless of party. You know what I'm saying? So again, and I'm not going against the Republican Party at this point. I'm going against Trump. I don't like his character. I don't like what he stands for. I don't like how he carries himself. And like I said before as well, I think the Republican Party has some good things about their platform that could be great for our community. But
Right.
it's all about just studying actually what the crux of the Republican Party stands for and getting into that before people just start jumping on your throat saying, okay, you're supporting the Republicans. No, understand their platform, understand what they stand for, at the crux of what they stand on, then make that decision as to, whether they're bad as a whole or not.
Man, this is a deep question. I don't know if you would know, but I know I don't. Um, what do you think got the ball rolling for it to be so harsh on Republican versus Democrat instead of being, let's come with the best solution for the country?
The country was founded on basically separation, man. If you really look at the foundation of the
Mm,
country, the
wow.
Republican and Democrat thing goes back to Ben Franklin, George Washington days. It goes back to the founding of the country. You
Right.
know, just having this
Mm,
group against this group. This group stands for this. This group stands for that. Don't get me wrong. You could say the declaration. I guess at a high level, you could say like the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. Those things were written by a group of individuals who had different backgrounds and different ideals. You can say that.
Right.
But at the end of it, it was more or less, somebody said one day, well, I'm gonna stand with this group over here because they believe more what I believe in, and they're gonna stand on this side over here, and that's the way it happened. And I think from a get go, that's where the company was designed. That was
Hmm.
the intent, more or less from the was for us to have
And
separation, just like the
so
separation of government.
so they've been trying to one up each other from day one.
Yeah, if you even look at the separation of government, you got the judicial, the legislative, the executive, all that's separated, and they're not supposed to necessarily step on each other's toes. They each have their own respective responsibilities, but it's still separation. Instead of just having a
Right.
government that just can do and function, and everybody kind of do everything, together. It's just this is their lane, this is their lane, and this is their lane. So again,
Interesting.
the idea of it is, it's been separation. I think we have a guest here coming in. I'm going to go ahead and invite her in, and let's see if we can go ahead and get her on here. Good evening, Miss Collins. Can you see us and hear us?
Yes, yes, I can see you. I'm trying to get used to this format here. Hi.
Yes, ma'am. Good for joining us. Thank you. Thank you for jumping on Poppin' Politics.
Dr. Lachey Sharp Collins.
Yes,
My apologies, Dr. Collins. My apologies.
you were
So
all
if you can, give us a little introduction, if you don't mind, please.
sure. I am Dr. Lachey Sharp Collins, candidate for California State Assembly to represent the 79th District. I am born and raised in Southeast San Diego. Kenny, you know what's up.
You already know.
You already
Yeah.
know. But yeah, born and raised in Southeast San Diego, a graduate of Lincoln High School. So I'm a proud Hornet for life.
Feel like we lost her real quick. It's all good. What's happening when you do live presentations? We
Right.
have issues from time to time. It's all gravy.
Yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully she can get back on. I'm excited for things that she's got going on, and helping out our county and whatnot. She's out here pounding the pavement. I'm so proud getting things in the mail with her picture on it, and I got a text message today with her about her, and I'm like, wow, she's from so to know her from a kid up to now. It's she's always been impressive. She's always been smart.
Excellent. I know how you feel because my great aunt, I don't know if I told you, was a late Eddie Bernice Johnson, the congresswoman from Dallas, Texas, for over 30 years. And just knowing that that's my family. Every time I saw her on TV, because she's also used to be the head of the Congressional Black Caucus for a
Mm,
period of
wow.
time. And, seeing her, up there with President Bush, Obama and Clinton early on, it was just, that's my family. You know what I'm saying? So I can relate definitely when you say that. It's just like, that's a great feeling when you see
Yeah.
somebody with your bloodline and they're standing up there, you
Yeah.
know?
It's just proving the point again that anything is possible. Like you can do anything because you can see someone that you know from a child to grow and do just awesome things, and it's just go. I mean, I already know everything, anything's possible, but it gives you a story to share with others that may not feel that way, and you could say, look at this person who went from here to here. You can do it too.
Right. It's crazy though. You know, there she is. She's back here. Let me get her, bring her to the stage. There you are.
I'm sorry, you guys froze. The call came and boom, I lost y'all.
That's okay. That's okay. So, I'm born and raised Southeast as well. I'm out here in
Okay.
Atlanta now, but born and raised in Southeast. I graduated from Crawford,
Okay.
but class '95. Yeah, yeah.
I was
But yeah,
bad.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So if you could, so what area does a 79 district cover? If you don't mind me asking.
It covers all of South. Like they have a say southeastern, so all of southeastern San Diego, a small portion of Bonita, all of La Mesa, all of Lemon Grove, the
Okay.
unincorporated areas of El Cajon. So taking you all the way down to about Second Street and then Spring Valley. as well.
Okay. Oh wow, that's a
Hmm.
big district.
The
That's a
college
lot of
areas,
Right.
area.
City Heights and some of the college area. Yeah.
That's a lot of area. Goodness gracious. Okay.
It is huge. It used to be bigger than this. So when they went back to redraw the lines, they actually cut it and they pushed us further east. So
Okay.
we don't have San Diego State anymore, but we stopped at Montezuma Road.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So how's your race going? How's your campaign going?
I like to think it's going great. The polls showed me leading, and they
Okay.
had me by actual double digits. So I'm excited about that. But let's just hope and pray that folks actually get up and vote. So those folks who haven't turned in, their ballots via mail, hopefully today they dropped them off for last night, or they're going to the polls now before 8 o'clock. But so far, so good. In honesty.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Definitely, definitely. So if you have a message you want to get out there to the constituents or to the voters out there, what would you like to hear them say? What would you want to say to them right now?
In all honesty, please vote your values. That would be
Hmm.
the big thing that I can tell folks right now. Vote your values. If you do not see yourself in any of those candidates, then something's wrong. We need to make
Yeah.
sure that you're able to see yourself in anyone who you actually select, someone who understands you, who understands your needs, who understands the district, your overall concerns, and someone who will do everything they can to speak truth to power because they have walked a mile in your shoes. And that is me, a candidate who has walked a mile in so many of our constituents' shoes growing up in the community that I've grown up in. And me being here today talking to you all is a true testament of how far people from Southeast San Diego can go.
That's
The
right.
sky is the limit, and you just have to believe within yourself and have a village behind you. And so, honestly, it's vote your values. We all deserve to be heard. We all deserve to be valued. We all deserve to be respected and not marginalized. And so, as you
Yes,
prepare
ma'am.
today, please vote with your heart, mind, body, and soul.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
What are your thoughts? I want to go ahead, Kid. I'm sorry.
well, I'm gonna go off of energy, and you know how I am, Lachey. So you know I'm a little extra sometimes. So I'm just gonna say, once you get this victory and open up that can on them, what's some things, what's some visions that you have? What are you gonna do?
Well, anyone who knows me know that education is my number one top priority. And so I know for a fact education should not be an actual debt sentence. So many people are going in debt because they're trying to go to college. So definitely looking at tuition caps, number one. Also, when it comes to our veterans, I want to work with our federal government to ensure that once veterans have actually passed on, that their families can continue on to receive their current benefits. Right now, once someone passes away, their family loses the benefits, and
Hmm.
that's not fair to them. And so their families still deserve to continue to move forward and have quality of life. Also addressing our small businesses, making sure that that our communities are thriving once again. We're bringing in these businesses back here, addressing housing issues, homeless issues. I mean, clearly, Kenny, all the above. In all honesty, me being a woman, it's hard to pick one area of focus or three areas, but there's so much for us to address. And so but keep in mind that the biggest things that I will address will actually come from you. It will come from our community, from our constituents, and those are the issues that I'm going to push first.
And see what I love about that is it just it was authentic, and so you don't just get um, an answer that sounds good, but you can actually tell that that came from the heart, and I got chills actually.
Thank you.
Exactly. What are
One
your
thing
thoughts?
I
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
share with you guys is that for this election, back in the primary, my the supporters of my opponent spent $1.3 million to buy the primary election. Now total with the primary and the general election, it's over $2.4 million put into this race behind my opponent to
Wow.
my almost $800,000 total.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
That
Gotcha.
right there should let you know. Folks
Right.
are out trying to buy the election. You have mega dollars going into this campaign, and you have folks that are not from the community that are vying to want to represent the community, but don't have the best interest at heart. And so I want to make sure that we keep what's right and what's just at the forefront at all times. And I've already done the work for a little over 9 years as our Secretary of State's district director when she was in the seat. So I have already ran this office for that time frame. So I'm already ready to go to come in and hit the ground running. But I just wanted
Excellent.
you guys to know that this is a big dollar campaign. And there's a lot of money thrown in here, but we have to let them know that we are unbought and unbossed.
Yes,
I,
ma'am.
I have to contain myself because I really just want to yell right now.
Man, man. So you hold the seat. You're looking to get the seat that Shirley Weber held previously, correct? If I understand you.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. It
Okay.
was Shirley Weber, and now it's her daughter, Dr. Akilah Weber, who was now going to be moving over to the state senate. So our goal is to keep it doctor, 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 and keep it woman and keep it black.
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
that's
There you
right.
go. I want to get your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the national election going on right now with Kamala and Mr. Trump? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm sitting over here on pins and needles still.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
um,
ma'am.
in all honesty, it goes back to what I stated about my own election. Vote your values. Pay attention, folks. Do that research on Project 2025.
Yeah, one of the
Mm-hmm.
most
Mm,
frustrating things from my standpoint that I've seen when I've had conversations with different people is I've come across some that say they want to vote for Trump, and these are coming from black, Latino males, and the reason why they say is because of the economy. But when I try to hit them with the facts of what did he do when you say the economy, what did he do for you? And they try to say, well, I had more money in my pocket, this and that. But I'm like, he was handed a very robust economy from Barack Obama. He took
Mm-hmm.
credit for that economy. He may have done some things as far as getting rid of some regulations and whatnot, but Obama handed him a very robust economy that he took credit for. So when you look at it, he really didn't do much for you. When you think about the stimulus checks, people say about inflation. To me, and I've said this in our other episodes before, there were three prongs that caused inflation. One, there were the checks that were cut under the Trump administration that they cut that Ken can elaborate on that he held because he wanted his names on the checks. It was the pandemic itself, and then when Biden and Kamala got in office, they also cut more checks. So you had approximately maybe $8 to $10 trillion that were put out there in the economy, for the pandemic, because they also had to put money towards the stock market as well to keep it from sliding down the road. So it wasn't the Bidenomics, as they call it, that did this. It wasn't a Biden administration plan per se with regard to the economy that caused inflation. It was basically our leaders trying to save our economy, because if you think about it, had it not been for that, our unemployment would have gotten up to 20, 30%. Inflation would have been about 14, 15%. So when people complain about that, it's mind boggling to me that they still want to go and vote for the other side in that regard. But it's wild, Ken. We've still had these conversations, and that's still the response that we're getting from people. And so, what are your thoughts on that component there, Dr. Collins?
I think you laid it out pretty good, in all honesty. I've been hearing some of the same concerns. I'm not voting. I had a lot more money in my pocket and all of that. But it boils down to the education system and folks being having a thorough knowledge and understanding of how our system operates. And so if we can start making sure a lot more people are a part of the civic engagement process and understanding the city versus the county, and the state versus the federal side and all that stuff, and the role they actually play, I think people will start having a lot more of a vested interest in wanting to participate in our government process. So you laid it out pretty good. I mean, we are where we are at this point, but we cannot continue where we are at this point. Our time is now, and it's time for change. And if you want change, you have to be the change that you seek. And if you're not
Yes,
willing
ma'am.
to change that you seek, then we're going to stay in the same predicament that we are in now.
Yeah, I urge people all the time. I'm like, do your due diligence, do your research. Don't based on the clickbait you see on social media. Just
Doc,
do your research. Go two
Dr.
or three layers
Lachey
down.
Sharp Collins, we just appreciate you, appreciate your time. I know you're super busy. I know today is the day, so I
Yeah.
know you have to go. But we just want to say thank you so much for your time. Thanks for blessing us. And the one thing that I'm about to run with is vote your values.
Yes, vote your values. Our time is now, because when we fight, we win. And when you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
That
Yes,
part.
ma'am. Thank you for coming on. Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you guys. All
All
Yes,
right,
ma'am.
right.
bye bye.
Blessings.
Bye bye. Man, that was great. So with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back after these messages, everybody. Oops, bear with me one moment. We're doing live, so bear with us. All right,
Hey,
welcome back, everybody. Welcome
I
back.
was I was jamming to that right there.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's another track by Forget About It. So with that, what are your thoughts on what do you think Washington's going to look like? Let's say, for example, let's go with Kamala first. What do you think Washington is going to look like from a functional standpoint? Do you think that it's still going to be that big divide and that constant headbutting, nothing getting done, or do you think that there's going to be more of a consensus and you're going to see some people going across the aisle?
A little bit of both. There's definitely going to be some people who are not going to be happy with it. But I also believe that she's going to have a chip on her shoulder and she's going to have something to prove. And she's smart. And I just think that she's going to get a win for the women, get a win for the country. I think she's going to do some things that people didn't expect, and she's going to make things better. I really believe that. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of people actually that are not going to be happy with it. Even if things are getting better, they're just going to be mad just because of who it is.
Agreed. I think that I don't think, at least I hope, we don't see what we saw Barack Obama, where you had some pretty high up Congress or senators rather, in Washington when he got elected, and they actually said in interviews, we're going to do everything we can to make sure he fails.
That's crazy.
So it's crazy that people would even think that, let alone say it. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully we don't see that because I think that she's going to actually follow through with what she said as far as, she's already said she's going to have Republicans in her cabinet, not only just on her team, but actually in her cabinet. That's
Right.
that's unheard of. So that
I
to me
mean
that would
that
go a
that
long way.
that speaks to that she's really trying to make it better
Right.
instead of just saying I want my people.
Exactly. Because again, it's just if you really look at our Congress, I'm including both Senate and the House, going back, let's say 15, 20 years. It's just constant headbutting. It's not, somebody saying, I'm going to go to Washington and do this and make sure that my constituents can be better served in this way or that way. It's, I'm going to go to Congress to fight against the Democrats. I'm going to go to Congress to fight against the Republicans. And I'm like, if you're doing all this fighting, who's doing the legislating? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What's getting done? Other than you guys passing these huge budgets and digging us further into debt. What is actually getting done on a day-to-day basis, on an annual basis? It's just again, I've told you before that I don't want to vote for somebody whose message is I'm gonna go fight against.
Right.
I don't want that. This isn't the WWF.
Right.
I want you to go there to I want you to go there to legislate to make our community better, to make our city, our state, our country better. And it's just if you go in there for that, because again, it's all about a power trip now. It's a big chess game to where it's all about holding the seat more so than actually getting up there and getting something done. And that's why I think that they should implement it sooner than later, term limits when it comes to Congress. Because
Right.
don't get me wrong. I know my great aunt was there for 30 plus years, but to me, you should be able to run a maximum of 2 terms, maybe three, which would be 6 years. Um,
Right. Right.
and that should be it. After that, it's time for somebody else to come in and take that over. No way you should be that. This shouldn't be your career for the next 35 to 40 years sitting in that seat.
Right. Right. Because some of
It
those
makes
some of
no
those people
sense.
are some of those people are too old and don't think, the greatest, but they're just in the position, and so we need some vibrant minds in there, you know.
If you look at it, they're always in constant campaign mode. They're not in the
Right.
mode to get up there and actually work. It's always making decisions to make sure that they can keep their seat. Doing this so they can keep their seat. And it's just it just becomes a big game after it. Yeah, it's already a big game. You know what I'm saying? Not getting to, but it's already a big game, and that's all. And that's the game. Holding on to that seat, making sure it stays Republican, making sure it stays. Instead of taking a step back and saying to make sure the American people are taken care of, making sure that
Right.
Social Security is going to be there for the next 2, 3 generations,
Hmm.
making sure that everybody has health care. You know what I'm saying? Just the foundation of what America should be about, being that supposedly we're the greatest country in the world. And don't get me wrong, we are. We have a lot of issues, but we are still the greatest country in the world. You
No
know, we're
question.
the most economically viable country in the world. We have the most freedoms than any country as far in the world. But at the same token, there's so much more that we can do to make it much better. Education sucks. You know what I'm saying? Going back to what our guest a couple of weeks ago said, William Mansfield. I think that if they made, what he said made a lot of sense. Make it so these schools have to compete more. To where they
Right.
have to make sure that these kids are learning, making sure they're
Right.
giving the best education. Because right now you do have a subset of schools in this country that just suck. There's no other word for it. They just suck. You know what I'm saying? They have 20% of their kids graduating, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, and I just believe that that kind of stuff, for some unexplainable reason, is set up like that. They're doing it on purpose because I mean, how is the education? That's the future. That's what's gonna make the country great is by making sure the kids from the that's the foundation. And so why would you not put your all into that area? It just doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, and we talked about it before to where if you look at our education system is set up the same way that it was 60 years ago, 70 years ago. Same formatted classrooms, same school buses. And again, if you look at some of these memes you see on social media, some of them actually do make sense. They'll show a prison and then they'll show the school. They'll
Yeah,
show it, and it looks almost the same.
yeah,
The way they have the kids. I've been to some of my kids' schools here in Georgia when they're like in elementary school. Just how they do in prison. The prisoners have to walk a wall in a straight line. And the kids the same way. You
yeah.
know what I'm
Because a big, a
saying?
big,
It's just a lot of
a
it. It's
big
just like
part
the
of it,
mental formatting.
a big part of it is a hustle. You know, where they're actually have you in the position to be in debt. And there's obviously it's a good thing, where people can go and learn and become great and become successful. But it should be like that for way more. There's so many people that come out and they're working a regular 9 to 5 that's not even in the field that they studied in. Now they got all this debt, and I just believe that it was set up like that.
Agreed. I think to a certain extent, because if you think about it, when we were back in elementary school, back in the 80s, to me, teachers are still allowed to teach. Every teacher you knew in your school had a personality. If you were in fourth grade, you knew, maybe 3 or 4 teachers you didn't want to have when you got to fifth grade because this teacher was tough. This teacher was tough, or
Right,
whatever. They all had their own personalities. They all had their way of teaching. Now, when I go to my kids' schools, it's all about the test. It's all about these state
right.
tests. Getting the kids, and they're always in that cycle of getting ready for these state tests. And it's just, are the kids really learning anything and taking this stuff in? You know what I'm saying? And that's what it comes down to. But that's me on the whole soapbox for the whole
Yeah,
education
and
system. You
you,
know what
you
I'm saying?
touched on something. You touched on something that sparked a thought in me, where that's kind of evident on what I was just saying about how it's a setup. Because why are teachers one of the highest paid professions?
You would
Shouldn't
think
that?
they
Should
would.
Yeah,
Yeah, you think they would be. They're teaching future leaders of the country. You know,
right, right.
It-
So that way you can have more people, because there's some good people that would be probably good teachers that they're just like, I can't afford to be a teacher.
it's crazy. And in some districts, teachers literally, again, when we were in school, man, in elementary school, our parents didn't have to send supplies to school with us. As
Right.
far as now, the teacher sent out a list, at least in elementary school for kids. They sent out a
Mm,
list to the kids. Kids had to bring scissors, paper, uh, pencils,
that's sad.
stuff that came that should that used to be able to get in
That's
school.
that's sad
It's
right
crazy.
there.
It's
That's sad.
crazy. And then they get rid of the stuff like the music programs where, it's been proven scientifically that kids who know music or learn music can learn better. It helps them learn in mathematics and sciences and things of that nature. And they're removing those still from schools, still taking that stuff out of school. So I think that I agree to some extent with what the Republican Party is saying as far as shutting down the Department of Education, but I wouldn't shut it down. But I would just put somebody in there who can build it from the bottom up all over again. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
man.
saying? And just totally rethink it to bring it into this century. You know what I'm saying? Because right now we still teaching like we did like they did back in the 50s.
Right.
That's
So how
ridiculous.
can you have the greatest country with a horrible education system?
Yeah, and then still expect us to remain number one and number
Right.
at the top of our game as a nation as a whole and be competitive with the rest of the world. It makes no sense. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's setting us up for failure. But with that, about the education piece. But with that, let's get back to the campaign. Who do you think ran the better campaign? You know, Forgetting who we favor. Who do you think ran the better campaign overall as far as getting their folks amped up, excited about voting? The ground games that were out there across the country. Who do you think had the better had the better game?
I think it just depends on who you ask, because um, one looks like a circus to me, and one looks like trying to get to a level that hasn't been done before. So it's different, but it's better. It has some intelligence behind it versus just emotional strategy. You know, it seems like one is trying to game a little bit. Both of them have some game. I guess you have to have some of that, but it seems like that's all they got. On the Trump side, is that's all they got is just trying to trick you.
Yeah, and if
That's
you
how
look
it
at
comes across to me.
yeah, and if you look at a lot of their if you look at his commercials, for example, I saw one I think last night, and it said, she broke it and we're gonna fix it. The border was broken for 40 years, and no president has been able to fix it, or even has just or just hasn't fixed it for whatever reason, Republican or Democrat. They didn't. Biden administration didn't break the border. It's been broken. And when Trump was in
Right.
office, he didn't fix the border. He was putting kids in cages. You know what I'm saying? He was. Don't get me wrong. I get it. They were separate. In some cases, you had kids coming across the border with some of the border bandits and the coyotes or whatever. I get that in some cases, but
That's
you had
that's
you
what's
had kids
funny
in
to me.
cages.
That's what's funny to me is that he speaks to her as when she was vice president on how she should have did this and did that, but you were
Right.
president and you didn't do it.
Exactly. And I'm like, the vice president historically he's in my lifetime hasn't really done a whole heck of a lot. He's not to my knowledge. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? She's probably one of the most active. She and Joe Biden. Biden, when he was under Obama used to task him to do, take on some pretty major things. And then he actually tasked Kamala. He didn't task her to fix the border. Her task was to get to the bottom as to what's causing these folks to come over here in droves. And that's what she did. She went to Colombia and Central America and Latin America and met with these different governments and got them to start stemming some of the flow of migrants coming to the border. That's why the border crossings right now are down to the extent that they are. You know what I'm saying? So it's just again, I don't understand why the messaging hasn't been clear from Kamala's administration from the Kamala campaign, because some of this stuff is just, to me, it's just A B C D E F G type of scenario to explain it to folks and just say it. Even
Right.
going back to the economy piece, explain to people that he's taking credit for an economy that wasn't his. It took Obama to come in and start speaking about it and say he's taking credit for my economy. Why wasn't that said by the campaign prior to that? I'm like, some of this stuff
Right.
to me should have just been easily stated, just to kind of kill any kind of misrepresentation that was being put out there. You know what I'm saying? We didn't break the border. The borders were broken for 40 years.
I
Did
think
you fix it?
it was too much focus on responding to what he may have said about them instead
To me,
of instead of beating them to the punch, so to
if
speak.
if I ran a national campaign, I would have at least three people on my team whose sole purpose is to
Yep.
respond to okay, that they said this in this commercial. Okay, we're gonna put out a response directly to what that was, and we're gonna basically rebuff everything they just stated. That's gonna be their sole job to do just that. That way,
Hmm.
anything that they're putting out that's not true, we gonna dead that right on the spot, point blank.
That
Period.
that I do see some of that though. A lot of the fact checks. So it's like when he speaks, and then people come and say, "Yeah, that was a lie. That was a lie," but it doesn't
But it's
even.
but
It
it's
doesn't
the
matter because
news.
it already hit. Right.
But
It already.
it's the press that's saying that. Though. It is the campaign coming out off the top and just saying, you know what, dude, if you have hundreds of millions of dollars that you put into these commercials all across the country. Put together some commercials where you got somebody up there with a chalkboard or a whiteboard, and you literally just make it very evident to the people, your voters, potential voters, and say, "This is a lie. This is what really happened. This is a lie. This is what really happened," and just put it point blank, period, to the people. Don't try to come with a bunch of pie charts and explanations. Simplify it so people can understand it right off the top. I don't understand why they made it so complex and they just don't do that. And that's the frustrating part to me. I'm like, dude, you have all this money you guys are spending on this or that, but yet you have all this misrepresentation that's out there. You guys are like allowing to get out there and get it into people's mentals. And there, once it gets in there, it's gonna be hard to get it out.
Yep.
So you if you dead it from the top, it's just so then you can kill it. But again, that's just one of those things that was frustrating to me, and I just never understood why somebody wouldn't just stand up and say, you know what, we need to really take care of this misrepresentation that's going on and go ahead and get rid of this stuff. But neither here nor there. We're at the finish line tonight. Kamala is gaining ground. It's now 162 to 280 to 162 to 81 as far as the electoral votes are concerned.
Nice.
They haven't called Georgia yet. They still haven't even included California into that. So and then they still haven't even included any of the battleground states as far as Michigan, Wisconsin, or Pennsylvania as yet either. So it's still pretty open at this point, but she is gaining a little bit of ground on that. With that said, and I think I know the answer to this one already, man. But who do you think stayed on message the best?
Who you think? What again?
Stayed on message.
Stated our message.
No, stayed on message through the
Oh,
campaign. Like,
stayed.
yeah,
Oh,
stayed on
stayed
message.
on.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. What is their dang message?
You know what? I've heard people say that, because some people said, well, we still don't even know what Kamala really stands for. But she's actually laid out pretty detailed what she was for. In the beginning, it was more or less her trying to kind of reintroduce herself to the people because all we
Right.
knew her was a vice president, and she had to kind of step out of that shadow of Biden and really let people see who she was and know who she was. So I get that.
One one thing I'll say about her is it seems like as time went on, she's getting better and better. It seems like she's gaining momentum and getting better.
Right.
Um, I don't know if it's because because I am a little biased, so I don't know if it's because I'm looking at it through that lens, but it just seems
Right.
like Trump is just Trump, man. He's it's no growth over there. It's just he sounds like the same guy that was the first time.
Yeah, and that's what they said too. Is why his percentage, as far as I want to say, his approval percentage, like 48%, has never gone over that number. You know what I'm saying? So everybody knew his ceiling. All she had to do was try to get to that level and then a little bit beyond. That's why now they're looking at the different numbers of the different votes coming in, and they're showing, let's say, for example, Biden may have gotten 62% of a certain part of Georgia. So she's going to have to get that and then grow it some and basically exceed that number and start cutting to some of these other areas or whatever. So it's interesting. It does become a bit of a chess game a little bit when it comes to getting these votes and getting these votes
Yeah.
out. It really does.
It seems like she it seems like she can win it. She just has to do what it takes, so to
Yeah.
speak.
And I think they both done a good job expanding their respective bases. I think Trump was able to get a lot of younger folks out in the Republican side that people had never voted before. From her standpoint, she's actually been able to get a lot of Republicans, just because of their
Right.
dislike of Donald Trump. So hopefully it'll be enough Republicans to get her across the finish line, and hopefully enough Latinos were pissed off enough after the Madison Square Garden piece to where those that were going to vote for Trump hopefully come over and kind of stand up and vote
I,
for Harrison.
I definitely
Harrison's
think
part.
he lost some right there for sure.
I'm hoping he lost more than some, man, because especially in Pennsylvania, I think they said the population of Latinos is like maybe Puerto Rico is like 400,000 in Pennsylvania. So
Mm,
hopefully she can get a good number of that over to her
mm.
side. Um, because just like we said before, a lot of Latinos and a lot of black men were actually looking to vote for Trump. And it was strictly based for the most part on the economy piece of it, which was again a misnomer in itself. But they were looking
Hmm.
to vote that way regardless. But after that, again, a lot of the Latino leaders out in Pennsylvania and up in the Northeast started really getting out there and trying to stir up their base a little bit and get them to come over to Kamala. So hopefully they were able to move that number just enough. But certainly, I want to before we close out, because we're gonna wrap it up here in a minute. I want to get your perspective on from an historical perspective. How does this campaign look to you overall, from basically the campaign itself, and if Trump gets into office, what does that look like from an historical perspective, or if Kamala gets into office, what does that look like from an historical perspective? From
Well, as a black man, it looks scary if Trump gets in there, just for the fact that make America great again. When was it really great for us? You know, and so that to me that rhetoric speaks of that good old boy type area. For Kamala's side, it just looks new to me because I haven't really seen a lady, let alone a black lady, um, in the position that she's in. I mean, I know there's been other women that have ran, but it just seems bigger. It seems bigger now, and
right,
stronger now. So um, that's what I would say. It's new, so I don't really know what to call it because I haven't seen it before.
I got you, I got you, and I'm right there with you. It's like for Trump, I wouldn't call it scary because I would say if I had to put a percentage on it, I would say 75 to 80% of what happens in Washington doesn't affect our day to day lives per se.
Oh, for sure.
Um, it's more or less the pieces that will affect us are more city and state type of situations. But when you look at it from a foreign policy perspective, us potentially going to this war or that war, or being engaged in this conflict
Right,
or that conflict, that could and would affect us. Of course, from a tax perspective, that would and could affect us. Healthcare, things like that. But if Trump gets into office, I just see 4 years of just you know, I won't even call it comedy, but just it'll be, again, for lack of a better phrase, man, it'll be a shit show.
yeah,
It'll be going back to the name calling, to just the negativity, and that's what I see for him. But with Kamala, I go back to the time when Obama got elected, to where again we hadn't been in that situation before to
right,
see somebody that looked like us in that position. So now it's going to be a totally different feel because not only is somebody that looks like us, but it's a female. So
right.
we don't know what to expect, but there's so much hope based on the person that she's presented herself to be and what we hope that she would be, that I see us going in a much more positive direction.
Yeah, it comes across as just someone who is looking to make things better versus someone who wants to make themselves look better.
Right, exactly. But at the end of the day, I know who you with. I know who I'm with. Fingers crossed. Gonna go park in front of the computer tonight and watch this thing till the wheels fall off and hope for the best. But with that, let me say this one thing before we close out. Don't allow politics, and this goes out to people watching, don't allow the politics to drive a wedge between you, your family, your friends, anything like that. Because at the end of the day, and people stated this previously, at the end of the day, again, like I stated a moment ago, 75 to 80% of what goes on at that level won't even affect your day-to-day life. So don't allow this, as far as who somebody else is voting for, to affect your day-to-day life. Don't do that. There's too much negativity out there, so much craziness, going on as far as people trying to threaten violence, things of that nature. Um, don't do that because we'll only have to deal with this for 4 years, 4 short years, and then after that we vote again and get somebody else in there. Hopefully that fits more of our bill and kind of go from there. But don't allow this to separate us.
And I'll just lastly say, in the words of Dr. Lachey Sharp Collins, vote your values.
No doubt. And we thank everybody for tuning in for yet another episode of Poppin' Politics, our first live stream. We look to continue these conversations going into the future. If you can, subscribe to our YouTube at Poppin' Politics and look for more but hopefully we can go ahead and enlighten you and educate you on the sport of politics in the United States of America as we move forward, because it's only going to get more interesting. So again, we thank you guys. Don't forget about it. My co-host, Mr. DJ King Majesty, we thank you. Everybody have a safe night and go forward.
Bless.